A National Coming Out, 10 Years Since Repeal 377A. Written by Kirsten Han, published on 1st November 2017, read by Liao Yangfa. It's been 10 years and Siu Kam Hong still remembers the walk from his seat to the Clerk of Parliament. I was so worried I'll stumble and fall. I was relieved to get it done without messing up. Parliamentary sessions are usually important yet mundane events, but the petition Siu had in his hands was significant and unprecedented. It was the first time in Singapore that a parliamentary petition was being submitted with popular support. The petition called for the repeal of Section 377A of the Singapore Penal Code. The law criminalizes sex between men, even if the act is consensual and occurs in private. Its existence has side effects. By effectively criminalizing gay men, 377A affects government policies and positions, such as the representation of the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender and queer, or LGBTQ community in the media, and the inclusion of LGBTQ issues in sex education in schools. Following a comprehensive review of the Penal Code, the Ministry of Home Affairs tabled amendments in September 2007. Among the long list of suggested changes was the decriminalization of oral and anal sex between heterosexual couples, as covered in Section 377. Section 377A, however, was left untouched. The discrepancy leapt out at George Huang. This was an overt discrimination, and I thought that it went against the grain of the formation of Singapore, he told New Naratif, referring to promises of equality enshrined in declarations such as the National Pledge, which commits to building a democratic society based on justice and equality. Huang, with the support of Stuart Cole, founder of the prominent LGBTQ website Friday, approached then-nominated Member of Parliament Siu Kam Hong with the idea of submitting a parliamentary petition. Independent of Huang and Cole's efforts, another group of LGBTQ activists were finding their way towards what would become the Repeal 377A campaign. According to campaigner Alan Seah, there was an indirect push from an unexpected source. We were a little inspired by Sir Ian McKellen, who was touring with the Royal Shakespeare Company. He did a whole thing on Channel News Asia where they asked him, "What do you hope to do in Singapore?" And he said, "Well, I hope to go to a gay bar." They all didn't know what to do, and it was the morning show and broadcast live. I wouldn't say he's the inspiration, but he definitely encouraged us to be a bit more mischievous. Seah and a couple of friends set up repeal377a.com. The campaign took shape around the parliamentary petition and an open letter to Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong. Local celebrities appeared in a video, their calls for repeal set against a pop beat. Seah remembers going around gay bars collecting signatures. "It's always difficult to try and get people activated when you're at a club," he said with a laugh. But I remember the response was generally pretty good. Some local businesses put up boxes where people could deposit their signatures. Individuals with no direct connection to the campaign collected signatures from their peers. Huang had set a target of 200 signatures, but the response exceeded his expectations tenfold. On 22nd October, Siu submitted a petition with 2,341 signatures to Parliament. The open letter, submitted to the Prime Minister's office, had 8,120 signatures. In Parliament, Siu's speech quoted comments left by signatories to the open letter, including one from a mother. "My son came out to me when he was 22, and I was upset and blamed myself for why my son is gay. I blame myself all the time, but he is my son. I love him for who he is, for what he is. It sickens me that people think just because he is gay, our family is not what it is. We are a family. He does not know I'm doing this, but I support this repeal. He is my son, and he is not a criminal. If I can accept him, his mother who gave birth to him, who are these people who so quickly judge him and condemn him?" Some members of Parliament, including those from the ruling People's Action Party, or PAP, spoke supportively of repeal, but others argued strongly for 377A's retention. Nominated Member of Parliament Teo Lee An gave the most memorable speech of the debate, still referenced by activists today, accusing homosexual activists of trying to hijack human rights initiatives to serve their political agenda. She likened anal sex to shoving a straw up your nose to drink, and spoke approvingly of efforts to help gay people get rid of their same-sex attraction and fulfill their heterosexual potential. It was quite jaw-dropping, Sia said, and the fact that other MPs applauded her, that was really disturbing. The whole Section 377A saga in 2007 gave me a rude awakening that there is a segment of the Singapore population that is not only conservative, but bigoted to the extent that they advocate imprisonment for sex between two consenting adult males in the privacy of their own home, Huang said. All the arguments, media coverage and celebrity videos weren't enough to shift the law. There was resistance. A counter-petition urging the retention of 377A accumulated over 15,000 signatures. The government was reluctant to move, and Parliament voted to retain the law. If you try and force the issue and settle the matter definitively, one way or the other, we are never going to reach an agreement within Singapore society, said PM Lee Hsien Loong. But the activists and their allies don't consider Repeal 377A a failure. It might be hard to imagine today, but back then, there were a lot more people bashing LGBTQ folks in public than there were people defending their right to be who they were in public, Sue said. The debate around 377A in 2007 in and outside Parliament took place very publicly and openly, and a lot of people, especially straight allies, stood up in public to oppose anti-LGBT discrimination for the first time. While we didn't succeed, for the first time we united and organized, said Indulakshmi Rajaswari, project leader of a legal guidebook for LGBT families in Singapore. Alliances and relationships were forged in the attempt, which still have an impact on LGBTQ activism today. It brought our community out of the closet at a national level, Sia said. And I do think, without taking anything away from our previous efforts, it galvanized our community. I'm not sure Pink Dot would have happened the way it happened without Repeal 377A. 10 years after Repeal 377A, Hong Lim Park, a modest green space next to Singapore's central business district, was packed on July 1st, 2017, a heaving sea of pink in the tropical heat. In its 9th iteration, Pink Dot had dancers, singers, community booths, celebrity ambassadors, and over 100 Singaporean company sponsors. Its organizers, Sia included, have been careful to present the event as a family-friendly festival to better reach protest-phobic Singaporeans. It had come a long way from its inception in 2009. They didn't allow us to use the stage, Huang recalled. Actress and singer Pam Wee brought a stool, stood on a stool, and had a loud hailer. That was the first Pink Dot. The annual event's astonishing growth might give the impression that much progress has been made for LGBTQ rights in Singapore, but the reality isn't so simple. There have been overtures from the government, acknowledgement that we are valuable and that we shouldn't be despised, said Sia. But institutionally, 377A really chops off our hands and feet and makes it really hard. Constitutional challenges mounted against 377A were dismissed by the Court of Appeal in 2014. Pink Dot has also not been left alone. New rules introduced this year forbade foreign companies like Google or Barclays, companies that had been sponsors in previous years, from supporting the event, and required organizers to erect a barricade around the park so that only citizens and permanent residents would be allowed entry. Although LGBTQ issues have gained visibility, the pushback has grown too. Groups like We Are Against Pink Dot in Singapore and Singaporeans Defending Marriage and Family have popped up online, monitoring and flagging any perceived move towards equality or pro-LGBT content. Be it a brief same-sex pact in a touring production of Les Miserables or the existence of children's books featuring different family types, including gay families, as represented by a couple of male penguins in And Tango Makes Three in the National Library. The government has been accused of pandering to these groups. Following complaints, the authorities demanded the kiss be excised from the musical, while the children's books were only saved from being pulped after a public uproar, including a read-in where young parents read the books to their offspring outside the library building. Once you're given sudden dog whistles or sudden cues to let that sort of speech flow so freely, then it really does, Sia said. So definitely by the government not repealing 377A back then, the constitutional challenge being unsuccessful, the restrictions on Pink Dot, I think all those things embolden such speech, hate speech. Let's call it for what it is. As with all movements, there are a variety of perspectives on strategy and advocacy, but the LGBTQ movement shows no signs of throwing in the towel. I quite appreciated what happened this year with Pink Dot because then it slaps young Singaporeans awake and they finally understand that Pink Dot is not about just coming and having a picnic, said Elena Lee, founder of LGBTQ community space Pelangi Pride Centre. We really need protests, and we're not free to do whatever we want to do. It's just a matter of time before they use the laws against us. A new generation of LGBTQ activists is set to pick up the baton from the veterans. Observers say they're more aware of the need for diversity, which is good news for those who have felt that Singapore's LGBTQ movement has historically skewed too much towards Chinese gay men. Things are changing in the younger generation of activists and students who are a lot more open to diversity, who know what intersectionality means, and demand a lot more in terms of gender and sexual diversity inclusion, said Indu Lakshmi. There's still no indication of 377A budging from Singaporean law. The Prime Minister continues to argue for status quo until society changes. This issue continues to lie at the heart of the struggle for LGBTQ equality in Singapore, challenging activists to continue searching for creative and courageous ways to fight for their freedom to love.